Chris, you have to buy this. You have to buy it. There's only one left. You have to buy it right now. Right now. Are you on my list? You're not on the list?
I don't know what it is.
Sorry,
Oh.
Too late.
I don't know what happened, but I feel disappointed. I feel like I missed out on something.
Oh, you missed out. You missed out big time.
Hey guys, welcome to another Lords of War Games and Hobbies video. I'm Chris, this is Jay, and we are here today to talk about FOMO, or fear of missing out.
Fear of missing out.
A thing that is very common in our industry, and across a lot of industries actually, as a powerful selling tool to help move products, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Like let's be real about what it is, right? And I guess we just like, this is really just a kind of random video to talk about how we feel about it, how it affects our industry, how we see it affect customers, that sort of thing. There's not really any point to this video, as you can tell. Maybe there's no point to any of these videos.
You know what? I think it's yeah, that's true.
We get too deep here.
We get too deep here. No, there's a point of this video. It's for me and you to make some more money. Whatever,
oh yeah,
obviously.
Right. Focus, Chris. Focus
on the task.
Focus
here.
on the dollars. So, Jay doesn't have real vision. He has matrix vision. I always say this to people.
Just money, yeah.
The difference is there's no ones and zeros. It's dollar signs and zeros.
That's correct. Yeah. You're either a bunch of zeros or a bunch of dollars. Yeah.
So, how do companies deploy FOMO?
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, you know, they do it in many ways. We could look at, obviously Games Workshop has done a pretty good job in the last few years, but you see it with video games and all kinds of things. You know, the first thing is it gets stretched out. It's the slow dripping. They start showing you, it's like the marketing technique of giving you that, like, you know, that amazing opening trailer teaser. I mean, Kickstarters as well do this, right? And they really make it like, look, this is going to be awesome. They really want to put it frame it in a way that says, like, this is so awesome that if you don't get one, you are like,
you're a worse person.
You're like falling. Everyone.
You're not even really enjoying the hobby.
You're like, yeah, you might as well be dead or whatever.
Yeah.
And then within that box, there's like little levers they can pull. One of the obvious ones is like value. So in the Kickstarter realm, it's the like, holy crap, you're gonna spend $200 and get $1,000 back. Like, it's like you have to, and you have to do it. You have 30 days to do this to decide, or it's over, and then you know, whatever. And here's like exclusive models.
And you'll have missed out on the deal, and you'll have missed out on this limited model.
So that's one way.
Yeah.
And then the other way gets kind of generated over time. So in the Games Workshop world or in the Magic world, everyone that is in those hobbies is slowly aware that, like, products aren't forever, and that, like, sometimes things are limited. Legitimately, they don't make a lot of them. There's lots of reasons for that.
This is sort of like choking the supply, basically.
Choking the supply.
You control the levers or whatever, yeah.
And I think that the answer to that as to why is a bit complicated, because you, on one hand, you know, I don't want to be too conspiratorial or whatever, but yeah, I think some companies, on one hand, they may purposely make a few, like Magic probably, or sorry, WotC or Wizards of the Coast, they probably purposely made or tried to make a small amount of what do you call it, the 35th anniversary or whatever, or Magic 30, sorry.
Yeah.
They purposely did that. They said, oh, there's only going to be 10,000 available or whatever. And I think that they can that makes sense, because like the printing of the cards for them isn't very costly. They can make, you know, whereas on the Games Workshop end, the production does cost quite a bit more than it does to make the cards. So they don't, and because of how much space it eats up at the warehouse, they're likely to like print a certain amount because of the amount that they think they can sell, rather than on purpose to make it feel limited, if that makes sense, you know. So
yeah, there can be accidental FOMO sometimes.
Yeah,
right? Like companies can accidentally create FOMO by having either a product do a lot better than they expected, and then like the supply chokes up and people go crazy. Like, what was it, like Curse City or whatever was a good example of in recent years where like people were like losing their minds.
Yeah, they really wanted a copy of it,
and almost entirely because it was rare.
Yes,
like that's the other thing, is when this is done, I think unintentionally sometimes, people almost want almost like half the people want it only because it's not available.
Yes.
And the reason you know that is because occasionally they correct this, and then when it comes back around, like, oh yeah, no, I can actually sell you one. They're like, nah, no, I don't actually.
Right,
want
it's
one
not rare
now.
anymore.
It's not rare. It's not cool.
Yeah.
It's not cool.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I would say, excuse me, generally speaking, I think there's a layer or veneer of FOMO that isn't, in theory, is on every item. They want you to be excited about everything.
yeah.
And there are certain annual items that always follow this. So, Games Workshop Christmas bundle boxes, Magic VIP collector products, whatever those are, those bundles. So it's a useful tool, and I actually don't think it's necessarily the worst thing. I think a little bit is good. You need to be excited. Stores want to be excited. Customers want to be excited. This is like obviously scientifically proven. If you make a product desirable like that, people get that. There's that the dopamine curve is like when it hits the curve perfectly. People are they come home and they have memories. Think of like
Oh my god.
getting that Nintendo 64.
Holy cow! Yeah. Yeah.
Got to date ourselves here a little bit. And actually asking for it and getting it and especially when it was new and everyone else has one, it's very powerful. So and it attaches you to that brand and then has you coming back to it again and again, right? So stores, we deploy it in a way by getting pre-order lists up and getting people talking about things. Right. Literally, as soon as things are announced, you're like, "Hey, do you want one?" And people.
Well, and we almost like we get sucked into the FOMO in a way,
Sure.
because we put our numbers in so early
Yeah.
for things that we are quite literally limited on how much we can sell somebody. So when people ask, "Oh, can I get this box?" We're like, "Yeah, there's one left," and
Yes.
And we as a business, you have to create a little bit of urgency sometimes to get someone to commit, because ultimately, if you're ordering 5 of something and everyone wants to play Seesaw game until the release day, you might sell none of the 5, right? So you want commitments from people early. It's a really important part of the business, right?
Yeah, people are in lots of ways non-committal to so much.
Yeah.
And maybe that's because life is just busy enough as it is, and you don't want to, especially when it comes to committing money spending. It's like you're getting attacked from all angles because there's like bills to pay and this to buy and payments for etc. And you also got to save some money and whatever. And then you get this guy being like, "Hey, you gonna buy this game in time or what?
Now,
I need to know right now,
Yeah,
right?"
yeah.
So,
But I mean, Games Workshop, I think, is following, a bit of a sellout model right now. Like, I think they're still in that very much. Like, you see a lot of the new releases that come out sell out, and then they take, I don't know if this is intentional or not, but there is a little bit of a lag before they come back in. So, like, sometimes you can get 1 to 3 months, and we've seen longer with more obscure games before you see that thing come back in stock again. So I think that natural process puts a little bit more pressure on people to buy those new releases when they come out. It's
they've trained.
Yeah, so they're training their customers, right?
Training the customers to be.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely. We have so the Old World Dwarven Holds went up on pre-orders, etc. The other weekend, and I've got a few people that are like, "Hey, I need these items. Can you make sure you get them for me?" Because they know we can access the website and whatever and try and. So I'm literally sitting there at 1 p.m. ordering items, getting into the queue and getting certain items. Some of the more esoteric items for the customer that because they want to support us,
which is awesome.
Which is awesome, and all that, and it's also convenient for them because now they don't have to sit there and do it. They can enjoy their Saturday, and I'm sitting there, clicking buttons while someone's trying to when someone's trying to buy a paint or something. It always happens that way. So if you're ever coming on a Saturday and it's 5 to 1 or 1:02 p.m. and I'm kind of staring at the screen and just only listening to you, I'm trying to order something desperately for a customer. But they know they got to tell us early. They give really specific lists, how many's, blah blah blah, and it's a crapshoot sometimes too. But to your point about them also making that sellout model is look. There's another video we've put out about how well their year went. I'm like, that also ensures that profits are good because they sell through, and it's a model we have here as well at the store. Sometimes it's better to just sell through something than to have extras. But yeah, no, FOMO is a real thing. I think that's fair to say. I think it's like it's, but it comes in different,
yeah,
I would say grades.
of course. Oh, of course.
You know, you've got your
absolutely.
You've got your like normal level scale, which is like what we kind of described about like trying to shore up numbers and get confirms on things, and or GW making small amounts of things, and then you have the accidental type, and then you have the coalescing of everything where they try to really like, probably would have been like Indominus or something like that peak.
I mean, that was the perfect
FOMO,
storm, right? The perfect storm, yeah.
Where all the
Perfect storm.
factors align.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that's funny because I'll tell a little story. This is the perfect example of FOMO. Okay, like, and I'm not saying this to criticize the individual that was experiencing the FOMO. Like, man, I've experienced FOMO. Like, we've all been victims of this, right?
Oh, yeah.
But this particular gentleman was coming in, and this is like, we still had a few Indominuses, I think, available for pre-order as well before the release, or like our list was getting like full or whatever. And he's like, yeah, I think I want an Indominus. And I was like, oh, and we try to know our customers pretty well here. Like, it wasn't like, no, I don't want your money. It's like, oh, interesting. Like, I know, like, what are you getting it for? Basically, I know you don't usually. And he kind of was like, well, I know it's like, it's gonna, it's probably gonna sell out. And I was like, but you don't like collect Space Marines? Are you gonna start a Space Marine army? He's like, no. I was like, well, you don't like Necrons. Are you gonna start a Necron army? No. Like, why are you getting this box?
Everyone else is getting one. I don't want to be the only one.
And he didn't get it, which I was happy because he spent his money on something else where they was actually going to enjoy.
You shook him out of the
and this kind of brings me to the point of like where it can lead people. I think you mentioned this at the beginning of the video, which is like the perfect. You see, these people are the victims most on Kickstarter, but like people that like get caught up in it, and often with the bigger stuff, like if it's a new army bundle or a big Kickstarter where they spend $500, like so much of the time it ends up never amounting to anything, right? We see people like that never do anything with the box. It just kind of sits at home, or they they get the Kickstarter, it comes a year later, and they realize they didn't actually care. It was just FOMO. They didn't actually love it. They didn't actually want it, and then it's on Marketplace, or they're asking us if we can sell it for them. And I think this always just brings me back to the classic, like, man, this is why, like, it sounds privileged and elitist to say this, but like the price doesn't matter that much.
Sure.
Like, ultimately, like, I found over the years, if you're buying things you actually want and are going to use, like, if you chase the dollars, you're going to spend way more money and like end up like selling it or firing it off for like nothing and waste a lot of money, as opposed to just like buying the things you want and building and painting them and using them. And that sounds crazy, right?
Yeah. We try and be the examples here for the customers. It's really, everyone's always like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I'm finishing this army from last year.
And I'm like, I'm literally hitting the spoon that's feeding myself, right, by saying this sort of stuff, because like, yeah, of course I want you to spend $500 on that new army and stuff and buy it all at once, like, but I also want you to finish it. Like, I love seeing our customers complete the loop. Like,
well, it's again that just coincides with our general business model of being here for as long as we can, so to speak. It's the long-term sustainability, which is like, all you can see it across every industry. The longest serving brands just do the same thing consistently, and just kind of like, it's very even keel, and they want you to come back for this because the product is good, and because the expertise or the customer service is there. When you get into the FOMO thing, if you go too extreme on it as a company, you will eventually flop a few times, and that's all it takes to like to really sour the perception.
Well, we've seen it too. Like, you get customers that are new, and they're just they'll be in, spend $500. They're in two days later buying a new army for $500. Yeah, and you're like, in your mind, you're like, no, I'm not going to see this person in a month.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, they're gonna just disappear off the face of the planet.
Now, but what about next?
And it happens all the time, right? So I'd much rather they spend $100 and came back in, and I taught them how to paint, and I got actually to help them and make sure they actually stick with the hobby, right?
Yeah. yeah, no, I think. I mean, going to the extreme title of this video, there's a few fringe edge cases of the person that is just like cannot control. They're just like, I need it all now. I want to just be a glutton. But yeah, the handful of examples over the years, there was a kind of a, this was like years and years ago. I hope he's doing all right. There was another gentleman who. Yeah, I think he was a local kid or something. Like, I don't know. We live in Oakville, Ontario, is like a fairly affluent city, so there are some people with some deep pockets nearby.
I always joke though that like
we barely see them.
We barely see any of these people. Yeah, we're kind of.
They walk in with their scarf on, out of their convertible car.
Isn't it an ascot?
That's right. Exactly. See how
if you have more money, it's an ascot.
How uncouth I am or whatever. I just like I don't even know what it's called. Anyway, it's a fabric around, and they're like, "Oh, how long have you been here?" And
yeah.
Oh, well, this is an interesting place.
I don't often come to this part of town. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, and this person was very polite, nice, and they were coming in and buying a little bit. It started with a combat patrol or something, and then it was like a combat patrol a day.
Jesus.
Or like every other. It was like $500 every other day for like a couple weeks, and then I go to Chris and I'm like, they're gonna run out of stuff to buy. And at that time of our store's history, we're only like 2 years old or something. It was like it was great. It was really good. It probably helped us grow a little bit, but yeah, sure enough, after 6 weeks, that's it. Never saw them again. They consumed the hobby at a way more extreme pace than anyone needs to. So.
Ultimately, I think our friend John, who also has a YouTube channel, JHo Miniatures, JonathanHo.miniatures or something like that.
Mm-hmm. I'll put the link in.
Yeah. Okay.
He's just like, thanks guys.
Thanks guys. Don't even know my name. He has a great rule where he's like, if I want something, I just wait 2 weeks. And it's amazingly powerful.
I mean, he might be the most pragmatic person on earth.
Yeah, and I'm like, if that's easy for you to say, John, you have more willpower than a literal machine or whatever. But no, I think it's something you can practice, right? I think with practice, we often look at some like emotional things as things you can't practice, but you can definitely practice them and get a little bit better at them. Not. It's not saying that you can fully cure it or whatever, but maybe you can get a little bit better. Always try to get a little bit better.
Or just be poor, and then you won't.
No money, no problems.
This FOMO's not a problem. I can't afford to eat today. I guess this FOMO's not a problem anymore.
Jesus Christ. On that note,
I'll just end it because Chris mentioned John's channel, which I'll post. Go check it out. He's legitimately a world-class artist, miniature painter. He's won the Atomic Mass Path of the Worthy multiple times. They're probably going to name a trophy after him because he just keeps winning it.
Just to get him out. Like it's like trying to get a guy to retire. He's like, well, just name a street after you, and can you please retire?
Just retire, yeah. So anyway, he does. He's got banging Patreon, and he does lots of detailed guides. So if you want to fool yourself into attempting to become as great as him, you can subscribe and watch those things. And he's just a great human. So anyway, check out his channel,
and you can subscribe and like ours too, if that's okay.
You should do that first, and then go to his. So maybe I won't post the link anyway. Thanks, guys.
Till next time, guys. Have a good week.
Bye.
Cheers.